There we go. Now it's doing it.
Okay, then. Now it's showing something up. There you go. You can see the live stream on my phone. The problem is, there you go. You hear me?
Yep. Hold on, let me.
Oh, right on it. Yeah, sitting behind Mr. Mr. Ross right here. So, let's see if you can hear mine. Now we got it. Now we're live.
Yep, we got it.
Fantastic. Now. Okay, my question about the whole coronavirus is, okay, you're not an authority, you're anti-authoritarian, but especially with this whole virus going on, do you think we need to enforce this or not? Or should we let people do what they want to? Or what do you think?
Well, in an idealistic world, as an anti-authoritarian, people would be smart enough to know better and obviously not put them in the position of catching COVID-19 and doing everything that they can to restrict the spread of it. But as we can see with things like HIV, which is something that is not easy to catch, it's not an airborne illness, it's given sexually, that's spread all across the world. So if we can't even stop a virus like that, then we certainly can't stop one that's airborne. The goal of the country, it's got to establish some kind of authoritarian measures in order to keep the public safe, because like the incident that you brought up to me once where there was somebody in an elevator coughing all over everything. Is that appropriate? Is that what we should be doing? Or
I don't think it's appropriate at all. I would probably that guy probably punched. See, my theory is, I have a motorcycle. I recently bought a motorcycle. I love riding it around. I see people who drive around on their motorcycles without helmets on. I think that's completely stupid, Why the heck you would drive a motorcycle that can go up to 150 miles an hour without a helmet? Even a moped, you would think you would wear a fucking helmet, And see, the way I see about it is, I think we should open the economy up, but we should still keep social distancing of 6 feet away. We should still keep wearing gloves. We should still wear masks just in case, because it's a safety measure. We close the economy because something that we can control by ourselves. And if people don't want to wear those things, then they're dumb enough to do that. And if they get sick, that's on them.
Well, the thing is
it's like somebody wearing a seatbelt.
It'll make other people sick, and the masks are not foolproof.
Oh, it's not. I will say that.
The virus particles.
Same thing wearing a seatbelt.
The virus particles can get through the masks. They're not effective.
Also, Sweden, their economy is still open. They actually only have about 22 deaths and any recorded cases. They haven't had any new recorded cases, and there's a lot of people who are immune to it now, to the coronavirus. I'm not saying I hate this is a difficult situation. I think people should need to stay inside, but I don't think it should be forced by gunpoint. Because when it gives a chance to authoritarian government to enforce these rules, they will take advantage of this. When you look at Michigan, they're far more strict than Kentucky. In Kentucky, they're slowly opening the economy up, but they're not doing it. In Michigan, you can't even buy seeds or paint. That's ridiculous. That's insane. You're not allowed to buy paint. That activity you could do during social distancing during the quarantine. That makes no sense.
This is multiple times I've heard this phrasing used that they're doing this at gunpoint. I've not seen this. I've seen them do it with bureaucracy, like fines, but not at gunpoint. I think the worst I saw was somebody got pepper sprayed.
I hate when they compare it to communist Russia, or they're trying to compare it to neo-Nazis and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's stupid. You know, that's dumb because I mean, promise me, it could be far worse. If North Korea had, if it were not North Korea, they would shoot and kill all the people who had COVID-19. China did the exact same thing and basically weld their doors shut, by force. It could be worse. I will say that.
That is what I would call tyrannical. That's what I would call tyrannical. I don't think what the United States is doing is tyrannical. I think, like I was trying to explain, that the balance between anti-authoritarianism and authoritarianism must be met to uphold a society. I mean, like the idea of anarchy and communism. These are idealistic worlds. Star Trek society. It's an idealistic world. Although, I mean,
sorry, my roommate forgot to turn off the light.
But I mean, the country has to have some kind of authoritarian measure in there. I mean, it can't just be complete anarchy. It's not going to work. What will happen if we go to complete anarchy is we resort to tribalism, then feudalism. That has to do with our human nature. Birds of a feather flock together. We're a social animal. We would create packs, and it would become.
I'm not asking for total anarchy. I'm just asking for, people to be self-reliant on themselves.
Can I ask the amount of people that have died from COVID-19 has reached over. They keep comparing. When it first started up, they kept comparing it to the death rates of the flu, and how many people died every year from the flu. Well, COVID-19 has gone over that amount of how many people die from the flu in 1 year, and
I will say that the fact that I was wrong about that. I thought, it was going to be nothing, and it's going to be just as bad as the flu is overnight media stuff. And yeah, I was wrong about that.
Well, but here's the thing. COVID-19 reached that number within 2 or 3 months?
Yeah. But also you have to put in account
But that's with stay-at-home orders. Had we not done the stay-at-home orders, that number would be much higher.
Well, also you got to count into recently, for 3 months, cancer, all these other conditions like, colon cancer, respiratory issues, hyperventilating deaths. Also, the flu death mysteriously disappeared.
No, it didn't.
Well, but I'm just saying that I think some of these hospitals, to keep their numbers up to get more money from the government for this whole COVID-19 thing, sometimes I think they're highly exaggerating the deaths. Yes, the person could have got a COVID-19, but he could have had a heart attack as well. There was a guy in Lexington, Kentucky, was reported as dead. He walked out of the hospital because he had a heart attack and he walked out. But the media was trying to portray him as he was dead. And he went on social media and said, "Look, guys, I'm not dead. I'm actually alive." So I mean, sometimes the media overhypes situations up and actually report the wrong things. Don't get me wrong. I mean, yes, COVID-19 is a real thing. COVID-19 is more deadlier than the flu. But my question is, how many people who actually died from COVID-19 in comparison between other problems that they had, like respiratory issues, heart attacks, heart problems? Just saying.
Well, first of all, the Indo-European Goth is in the comments section, so I'd like to say hello to him. He said a lot of people thought the coronavirus was going to be nothing serious, including himself. Yep. But one of the problems I have with this comparison to, I mean, you have infectious diseases, and then you have genetically degenerative diseases like cancers. Cancers are not contagious. That's something I don't feel that that's a very fair comparison, nor do I feel that it's a fair comparison to equate a behavior like smoking cigarettes or doing drugs and the death rates that has in comparison to a
You're
virus.
far more likely to die from COVID-19 from complications of because you're a smoker or you're overweight.
I'm getting to
You
that.
get
I'm getting to that. That's the problem, though, that you bring up is that, these people with respiratory issues, they're high risk. They're higher risk than you or I, that their chances of death go up higher. And that's part of the problem, like especially people with autoimmune deficiencies, like and not just HIV. There's other ones out there too, like anemia. People who are anemic are high risk. People with severe allergies that cause severe respiratory problems. Because the thing with COVID-19 is once you catch it, it wreaks havoc on your lungs and actually creates scar tissue. That's the great thing about our lungs is they can heal, but the problem is when our lungs heal, they create scar tissue, and the scar tissue in your lungs is not capable of absorbing oxygen. So that's part of your lung that can no longer actually do its function.
I think I sent you this link before about the UN report. If we keep the economy down, shut down, soon enough we're going to run out of resources like water, electricity, meat, milk, all that other stuff. If we keep the economy like this.
We will not. We will probably. Well, I don't know. It depends on where you are on water. The city that I live in, we're not going to run out of water. The other thing that you brought up that I was thinking of that you made me think of, and I lost my train of thought. Shit.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. As far as the economy goes, it's like, so we shut it down and we're taking a hit to our economy. But here's the thing is, like, let's say we lost a third, like an entire third of our population without stay-at-home orders. What do you think kind of impact that would have on the economy? We're talking about doctors, lawyers, nurses, people who are very essential to running our entire society, our civilization.
It's definitely true, but the UN has predicted, again, I'm not saying this from me, predicted it would be far more damage comparison to coronavirus. There'd be more people dying from starvation, suicide, and other illnesses. Right now, the third world countries that we usually donate food to, we can't donate food to them anymore.
No.
Yeah, because of this whole pandemic.
There's a travel ban on top of that.
Yeah. So it's the economy. We're looking between the point of going out there getting sick and dying, or staying at home or dying. Either way, we're fucked. Either way, we're gonna die. We gotta find a way to the point that we will be less damage to us in society.
Well, I think the idea is to reduce the amount of deaths, because ultimately, if you lost 1/3 of the population of the United States, it would have a deeper impact on the economy than shutting it down. Especially if we open it up prematurely, you might as well have not shut down the economy at all and just let the virus run its course. And whoever it killed, and whoever survives, survives.
Also, my question is, how the heck are we going to have a cure or vaccine or some kind of treatment if we don't have an economy? If we don't have money for these also resources for these things, how the heck we're going to pay for it? And to my opinion, I think more lives will be dead if we didn't open the economy up so we could have the flow of money. Because without money, you couldn't have the resources or the finances to even think of a vaccine. It's one or two things. I feel like we're going to be stuck like this for 2 years or less than a couple of months.
Well, here's the I'm going to take a non-political stance on this and not be left-leaning or right-leaning, but look at the facts and the evidence. The facts and the evidence show we probably won't be able to make a vaccine, period, regardless of how much money you want to try and throw at it. We've already seen mutations of this virus. It's mutating rapidly, Viruses that mutate rapidly and are highly contagious are not something that we can develop vaccinations for. Like even
besides politics, we need resources to actually help out with the hospital beds, the treatments.
that we do need. I agree with that. We do need that.
But also you got to think about it. There's also people coming out right now. They're coming out with treatments for the COVID-19. I mentioned the treatments of the certain heartburn medicine actually helps out with COVID-19. Certain medicine helps out with the immune system. Also, not only that, being stuck in your apartment lowers down your immune system, and sunlight kills the disease. Also, not only that, that the scientists are actually looking into getting a breathing tube pipe down the patient's throat that shoots out UV light. They're still testing it out. It's not FDA approved yet, but they're still trying to.
The UV light will kill the patient. It's a very, very bad idea. And the hydroxychloroquine has been debunked, like radically debunked all across the board. It is a bad idea. It's basically like taking a sugar pill. And I would assume the same for
Explain to me the doctors who actually got better off of taking that. Is it because it's 1 out of a million chance they actually survived it?
No, there were only 20 patients involved in the case study, and at 20 patients, you got so many infected. A certain percentage of them, like they didn't talk about who died. They only talked about who lived. The entire study was flawed, and it's not how we do things in academia. It was thrown out the window, just gone, because it's not. Actually,
it's a respiratory issue. It's a respiratory illness, and hydroxychloroquine. I'm sorry, it's hard to pronounce it, but you get my point.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Chloroquine actually help out with respiratory issues.
That's not what it's for. It's designed to treat lupus, and if you take it, one of the side effects is heart failure, which is extremely dangerous for somebody who's got a virus that's attacking their respiratory system.
Well, it's also FDA approved, also. Even
for lupus, which is cancer.
It shouldn't be taking a hydroxychloroquine in the first place if it has that kind of.
No, they shouldn't, and there's ramifications for people who have tried doing that. There was a doctor in the United States.
I used to take medicine all the time, and they always had side effects one from the other. I remember I took Ritalin when I was a kid. I don't take it anymore, thank goodness. But it had issues with heart problems and kidney failure. And if you have those issues, you should be taking it. There's ideas been thrown around that we could at least combat the disease or somehow, fix the problem. And a room of innovation would probably help us out.
The unfortunate reality is, though, according to medical science, is we just don't have the technology or the know-how to defeat a virus like that. We don't have it. It's not there.
There's a possibility.
Well, the possibility is there, but so far to date, we haven't been able to. How we've done it in the past when it comes to viruses, the only thing we can treat symptoms, but we can't actually kill a virus. The only thing that we've been able to do.
What I'm mentioning is mostly stuff that treats the symptoms, not cure the virus. And it's not really. I'm not saying there are cures. There's treatments to try to combat the virus itself. Some heartburn medicine actually reports that does help. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I never did in the medical field, but even doctors I've talked to before to ask questions, sometimes some of these people in these hospitals are misdiagnosed from something else.
That does happen, but I think we live in a Western civilization, and I think our health care is if you can afford it, it's pretty top notch. I think
mean,
I think the United States has been pretty honest in their numbers, along with England. There's several, like, there are European countries like France did something with the way that they calculated the numbers that makes their numbers kind of iffy, questionable, and that's also where the hydrochloroquine study came out of as well, that got thrown out the window because it was just not done correctly at all. It's just, that's not how we do science. No, I would be willing to bet that menthol eucalyptus probably helps alleviate some of the symptoms of COVID-19, but that doesn't mean that it's going to really help you in any way, shape, or form.
In all fairness, China is not being honest about their numbers. Because one minute they're open, their economy up, and next minute, after 2 days, they're closing their economy. They're not really being honest what they're doing.
And Thunderfoot has done some really incredible work on this. He's taken the China numbers and used them to actually predict what the virus is going to do. And so far, he's been pretty accurate about it, just using the China numbers alone before this was even like a thing worldwide. So I find that really fascinating, and I think if for those who are inquiring or want to expand their mind or their knowledge on this, I think that they should check those out. There's quite an onslaught of videos at this point. But what I'm trying to get at is the only way that we've defeated the virus, of any virus in the past, is through vaccination. That's where we take, weakened protein strands of the virus or RNA and inject it into your body, let your body develop the antibodies for it, and voila, you are no longer able to catch this virus. But these are the things like chickenpox, smallpox, polio. These viruses don't mutate at a rapid rate. This is why we haven't really gotten what we would call a true vaccination for the flu yet. A lot of the times what they're doing with flu vaccinations is they're taking a guess as to what kind of mutation the flu virus will have the year that they give out the vaccinations. And a lot of times they get it wrong. But the cold virus, HIV, flu, we don't really have true vaccinations for these things.
Also, I have another question. You seen the Bill Maher video about him criticizing China and the SJW's political correctness? Yes. Talking about calling it the Chinese virus and how people get offended by the phrase "the Chinese virus." To me, my opinion is, when people say the Chinese virus, they're not criticizing the Asian people or the race of Asian people. We're criticizing the Chinese government who fucked up. Well, markets, labs.
I think you have to be pretty incensed and on the fringe and very sensitive to get offended by saying that the virus came from China, because it did. It's just facts.
Yeah. Somebody suggested me an idea. So why you can't just call it the Chinese Communist Party virus? I'm like, well, that's a good example. Yeah, definitely. I think you should call it that. Oh, wait a minute. We can't call it that because people still be offended by it.
I don't care if they're offended or not. It's COVID-19. It came from China, and it came from meat markets that would fail an FDA or CDC inspection here in the United States. It would not be even fit to sell on a shelf here.
Bill Maher made a good point on the video, saying that it took less than 7 days to make a skyscraper. They enforced the one-child policy, but yet they can't enforce the farmer's market from hell. They had all the power to do that, but they didn't do it.
We have no jurisdiction over there, but we knew about the farmer's market from hell even before COVID-19 even took place. There were actually people who worked with
the Chinese government. The Chinese government should have put an iron fist on it, but they didn't do that.
Well, I agree, but it's China. They have suicide nets installed on their buildings.
They can't control everything, right?
Well, I mean, just think about what kind of country you're talking about. You're talking about a country where even the people who live there were holding up signs telling the Americans, "Don't listen to China because they're assholes." I mean, you
I
have
can,
you have people that are constantly protesting.
and
The
the
China.
Chinese government throwing Muslims in the concentration camps. And that's the one thing I don't get. While all these people are defending China, and China is one of the most racist government ever, one of the most racist countries ever. They're actually being racist and segregating African Americans from restaurants now because of the COVID-19 thing.
I don't know if they're racist or not. I just know that I mean you're talking about a country that still has literally they still have concentration camps.
Yeah.
I mean they are behind the times. They are Gregorian, draconian. So I'm not surprised at their lack of taking, like, I mean, the World Health Organization, the CDC, the FDA, they all were tracking this in China, but they have no jurisdiction to come into that a sovereign country and say you can't serve meat like this. This is not safe. But they were tracking it because if anything broke out, they wanted to be able to inform us, hey, shit just hit the fan. You better learn to duck quick because it's about to, get really, really bad.
Well, also the thing is, people were blaming the President of the United States, Trump, saying, "Oh, he said it was a hoax," and he didn't really say it was a hoax. He was saying that they were politicize this virus against me. Not only that, I mean, nobody took the virus seriously at first. Not him. Every mainstream media outlet was like, "Oh, it's just like the flu. Don't worry about it." And then when shit hits the fan, there's like, "It's the president's fault because he was warned it first." Yeah, even the experts were like, "Yeah."
I don't.
Even the experts were kind of hesitant about the virus.
I don't know. The things that I was watching that were tracking it, they were making it out to be pretty serious before shit even hit the fan. I just think
there was Chinese doctors who were whistleblowers coming out and saying, "Yeah, this is a serious thing. Be careful."
Well, the World Health Organization told Trump that he should probably close his. It was advised to close the country, and Trump was like, "Nah, we're fine. Don't worry about it."
Are you sure? Are you sure he's saying that?
Yes, there is a time lapse of this.
Well, I'm just being for sure. He might be telling these people. He might be telling the public one thing, and doing the other behind closed doors because he doesn't want to stir a panic. If he stirred a panic, that would make him look bad. He could have done it. He could have done something behind closed doors and could have closed and got a task force for the coronavirus. Just because the president of the United States is telling you one thing, he could be lying in your face and doing the other. Before the whole the second impeachment thing, he was trying to do a task force. This is what I heard. I'm not saying it's truth or not and for me, but he was trying to form a task force to maintain the coronavirus if it got worse. Not only that, I have somebody who works in, I'm not going to say who, but they work in the government, and they told me not recently, but like before the coronavirus was going on, he told me a couple months ago that said that a lot of these world leaders are actually trying to stock up more food and more money or resources in these bomb shelters.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So other people knew about this virus before it even happened. If we told the public about this, it would have been panicking on the streets. And you tell me that they wouldn't? They bought up all the toilet paper, Jinks.
I know. That was ridiculous.
I know I'm going to wipe my ass with.
Well, you suggested coffee filters.
I did say that. I looked at them and I'm like, okay, yeah, coffee filters. It's a little rough. It works. But I'm not. But like I said, I heard this from other people. I heard from other resources. It could be Trump lying again, saying that, "Oh, I'm not trying to make himself look good." I don't know.
I think that there is a level of responsibility that Trump does need to take, and I think that's indicative of somebody who is a leader, if that's indeed what he wants to be. Personally, I don't care if he does or doesn't. It's irrelevant to me.
Well, but also the check that we got, the stimulus check, the whole debate over that. My question is, what's your opinion about it?
I think that we paid for that. I mean, that's our tax dollars coming back to us.
All right.
I mean, I mean, that's where the government gets their money, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I do and don't agree with it. I know. I remember I called you up. I told you, and I said I was going to send that money back and write a little letter saying "fuck the government" because I didn't like handouts and stuff like that. And then after a while, I was like, what's the point? I kind of need the money. I kind of need it because of, one, I'm still working. And two, at the same time, I needed to pay my bills off. So, I mean, I kind of needed it. I can't bitch and complain about it.
It really makes me think how much money I would have at the end of the year if the government didn't take any money out of my paycheck.
I'm not anti-tax, but also I don't like over-taxation. I think American citizens pay too much tax for stuff and programs for that shit that doesn't work. Also, in Congress, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, those little butt wipes, they didn't want to give us no money, zero, unless they want to give more money to other organizations like museums and college campuses, which they already have their money, which is kind of ridiculous. They were trying to withhold the stimulus check because of that reason. And it's funny that it seems kind of funny during the whole stimulus argument that the SJW, socialist Democrats, and the conservatives actually had something in common with each other. They hated Nancy Pelosi. With a passion. So they kind of all got along for a little bit. Just for a little bit, it was beautiful. Just to hate Nancy Pelosi, which is rich.
Well, if you want to enrich your mind and get more knowledge about this, like leading up to the COVID-19, there is a documentary out there it's just called Pandemic. And apparently, I mean, it was a Netflix release, but apparently you can find it on YouTube. It's quite lengthy, but if you're curious and educating yourself on it, that is available.
I gotta check that out. Well, also my question is, since this whole thing, it's not, okay, opening the economy up or staying inside, I don't get why it's so politicized. It's not really politicized. I met people who are not even Trump supporters, who actually hate Trump, who want the economy back open. And mainstream media is trying to label all these guys as like idiot Trump, redneck Trump supporters, and I'm like, these guys are protesting. I'm like, not all of them are. It's kind of odd, What's your opinion on it?
On people not wanting to, or people wanting to open the economy back up, I think it would make closing the economy down a moot point because of all the money that we've spent already. And the fact is that if you look at the COVID-19 spread rate, what you want it to do is you want it to start leveling off. And we're not doing that. It's still spiking up, and that's not indicative of that you don't want to open the economy when it's doing that.
I will say that like rural areas, the COVID-19 doesn't affect them as much, but like bigger cities, when they're so tight and condensed, it'd be more of a health risk for everybody. I will say that it's screwing our economy up, and I'm afraid that when we run out of resources, that's the one big fear that I might have is that I turn my electricity on one day, electricity's off. I call the electric company and they say, sorry, we can't do anything for you because we're closed and we're shutting down all electricity of the state of Kentucky. Water doesn't work because nobody's working the water plants. See where I'm coming from.
Nobody's working the water plants? They're working the water plants where I'm at.
Yeah, but I'm saying hypothetically. If we run out of resources, we run out of workers, we run out of people who are working because they want to stay home because of COVID-19 or they get sick. Combination of that and our economy collapsing, it's scary. It's a nightmare. And if we don't have no food, we have no water, we're screwed.
I'm going to do this real quick and try.
Okay.
There we go.
Cody.
There we go. Okay.
Come on, man.
There we go.
We'll get you in this, man.
We got him in.
Yes.
What's up?
All right.
Well, you were watching the live stream. And tell us what's up. What do you think?
I think what's going on is just a bunch of bullshit. This really sucks.
Not digging the stay-at-home order?
No, I mean the coronavirus and as a whole.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of really like even my grandparents in their 80s and 90s, they said that they have never seen anything like this in their lifetime.
Well, people who were protesting, they had that mindset. Give me liberty or give me death. Unfortunately, I give them an A for defiance, but I give them an F for intelligence. Jody, what happened to you?
I'm just currently holding my phone, so I'm just trying to figure out how I can set this.
Oh, I gotta stand.
And I was just eating, so I was throwing the paper plate away.
I understand.
Look at us. We're all wearing just all black. We look like such a lively bunch.
Oh, and then, last night I was watching the anthology of Trick or Treat. Pretty good. Not bad. You know.
They have a documentary about Roz Williams on YouTube. I have it in one of my playlists.
Have you watched all of it yet?
I have.
I watched about, 30 minutes of it. I think I know which one you're talking about.
It was really good. It was really interesting.
But I have a question for you guys. Okay, you would think people would put their politics aside on this catastrophe. You'd think the culture war would just stop right now, right? It hasn't. Why? Give me an answer why.
Because the country is really, really divided on politics. We're facing economic crises and hardships, and people turn to collectivist.
It wasn't like I'm not done with you. Back in 2000, it wasn't that bad, and our economy was crashing. We used to have a good economy, but it was now shit, and we were still fighting over dumb shit. What happened? That's my question.
Well, you have proponents of the right that are leaning more and more towards dogmatic nationalism. You have proponents of the left that are leaning towards socialism and communism. Basically, these are collectivist ideals.
Well, that's the one thing I never understood, that I thought the Democrats hated communism or despised authoritarianism like that. But no, they're just going the opposite. And I thought, Republicans were... I knew they were nationalists, but I thought they were not overly nationalist like they used to be. Now they are. Reagan said, give a little to take a little.
Well, those
You
are
know?
those are two very polar extremes, are they not? Both
Oh yeah, it is.
collectivist, both collectivist, but very very polar extreme. I look at the philosophies of Friedrich Nietzsche, and I mean, it really boils down to that is that like people are putting their faith in basically demigods.
Jinx, I'm a bit of a nationalist, but I'm not that extremely nationalist. I think questioning your government is a good thing. I think that's the most patriotic thing in the world is being very questionable.
I I don't like patriotism or nationalism because with the Iraq War, like if you weren't patriotic, you were seen like anti-American.
Well, the Iraq War was a big mistake, you know.
Yeah,
The whole
Jinx,
freaking
you're Jinx, you're kind of in a fog world.
Oh, I know.
Why
I
can't,
don't know
why
what's
can't,
wrong
why
with the.
can't I go there?
I don't know what is wrong with the camera settings, but they're all screwed up. No, what I was going to do is this. So you can see where the fuck did it go? Here we go. Quote from Mr. Benjamin Franklin himself: "It is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority." This was in response to nationalism. Now, here is a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Nationalism is simply repackaged tribalism. There is a difference between nationalism and patriotism according to these philosophies. Nationalism is dogmatic, meaning that you are blindly following, and patriotic means that you can question your government because your government is not above doing wrongdoing. Makes sense?
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
Well,
it came from this comes from a punk rock song that love your country but hate your government.
yeah, it's kind of along those lines. Cody,
Yeah.
what do you think? You're into philosophies.
I think that a true politician would be one that wouldn't lie, but it seems like every politician lies.
They have the agenda of lobbyists or groups or a cult like, I don't know, clique, I would say. You would very rarely see these days that somebody from the right or left would actually be bipartisan on something. Just kind of sad reality because that would just hold us back from, moving forward with a good idea. Like the stimulus check. I mean, really, all some of the Democrats were just against the stimulus check just because of Trump. That was it. And surprisingly, the socialist Democrats and the Republicans got along for one little brief second over that. I thought it was fun.
Well, and yeah, I talked to a woman recently that actually lived in the Soviet Union under communist Russia. I asked her what she thought of Joseph Stalin, and I also asked her what she thought of Lenin. And she said they're assholes. And she said, I really don't like politics because it's all the same. It's basically some asshole out to grab for power. It's the story every time.
It wasn't so much of a grab for
Yeah.
power as that. I give you an example. If I told everybody in Congress, raise your hand if you're against rape, everybody would raise their hand supposedly, right? And then somebody would complain about saying they would politicize it again. And it's like, oh, I'm against this bill right here, but I'm against this. I'm gonna put my hand down because that guy raised his hand because I don't want to be part of that guy. he supports Obama. I want nothing to do with that. Or like one person raises his hand and says, "Oh, he supports Trump. I want nothing to do with that. He's a hypocrite." So they would politicize everything. That's ridiculous. I mean, if you have something that seems like a reasonable idea, like the stimulus check, I'm not necessarily for or against it, but at the time of right now, what's going on, and we kind of have to do what we got to do. We're still bickering about that. Come on.
I just think that it's kind of funny that, you know, for the longest time people have been buying this in America, but now it just takes a global pandemic just for us to get stimulus checks.
That is
But
hilarious.
the government was like against it for like the longest time. They were like, "Oh, well, that's just socialism."
I mean, they did give checks to the survivors of Katrina. I mean, it's for emergencies only.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did. They gave them housing and stuff like that. It took forever. It was funny thing is, I had one of my friends on Facebook was mentioning, complaining that he's like, "I haven't got my stimulus check yet. I haven't got my unemployment yet." And I just put on a comment that I should.
Did you hear about that? Did you hear about that one guy that when he got a stimulus check, his bank account had like freaking $2.8 million in his account?
No, I haven't heard about
the
this.
system's getting overwhelmed. What do you expect? You're going to get that stimulus check. It would take you a long time. I talked to one of my friends, and he said he's going to wait. He has to wait 3 months until he got his unemployment check. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I hate when I go through Facebook, somebody's getting laid off their jobs because of this shit. It's sad. I hate to see my friends homeless or going through this shit.
And what sucks is that not everyone is getting a stimulus check. Like single fathers paying for child support, they're not getting a stimulus check.
Exactly. Ugh.
That's just outrageous.
Yeah. There was one guy I knew of, his name was Mike, close friend of mine, hang out every once in a while. He has to pay child support. He works at a steakhouse making about $18 an hour. Well, used to. Ever since the coronavirus happened, he's been out of work. He got the stimulus check, went straight to the baby mama. Tried to file employment, couldn't because he has that. So now, from now on, he has to live with his girlfriend with no money and no way to pay for child support. It's crazy, you know. And that's a felony charge when you don't pay for it. That's a nonviolent crime. And how you can tell somebody to pay for child support when they're spending in jail for 3 years for child support? That doesn't make any sense. You want them to pay for it, but yet they can't pay for it through prison. You know? I don't get that. Is it just that fucking retarded?
Pretty much. And it favors women.
Exactly. Thank goodness I'll never get married off of that reason.
Yeah, I never want kids. So I'll never have to deal with that.
I want to, but at the same time, I mean, there's going to be some huge risk behind that. Cody, what happened to you, man?
He wandered off.
Jinks, you don't have to worry about having kids.
Nope, I don't.
Unless you adopt.
I don't want kids.
I do and I don't. I do want to have kids, but I don't want to have them with the wrong person, you know?
I just don't want that responsibility.
Oh, it's a smock. It's an alien, right?
Yeah, this is the smog alien.
It's a good
Yeah.
mech. I like those.
So how many people are watching?
Right now, me.
The last time I checked, I was watching and some other guy. It was the only two.
There was at one point several people watching. They've been coming and going, coming and going, coming and going.
Also, I heard, I was going to ask you guys' opinion about this. I heard a lot of the meat factories, a lot of these butcher shops, thanks to COVID-19, they might be closing down and we might have a shortage of meat. Meat might go up in prices. Would you ever consider going vegetarian?
Yes. No. For a short while, I would consider it.
I'm never gonna go vegetarian. I would rather die.
I mean, there's some vegetarian stuff that I ate before that's all right, but to me, it seems very overpriced. You know?
Maybe I could get my boyish figure back. I used to be 120 pounds, and now, no.
The rest of it just go down.
Well, what's really weird is that, like, I'm not fat, but things jiggle now. It's like, what is there to jiggle?
This is cookie dough. Vape.
I heard Kim Jong Un is in the hospital right now in China. You think he's going to survive or die?
Good. I hope he dies.
Yeah,
Well, I'll be honest with you.
I don't know.
And I hope he does. He's a dick, but also I heard his I think his sister will take over. You seen a picture of her sister?
Nope.
Oh god, yeah, she's fucking hot. For a dictator, she's pretty hot. I will believe you.
I don't know that she would. I mean, you don't know if she would be any better or any worse. We don't know. But they're the only country that actually runs a necrocracy. It's weird. It's a really weird thing.
Yeah, they only had 2 cases of COVID-19, and they all disappeared mysteriously.
My vape is low on battery. Forgot to charge it a few days ago.
I got plenty of incense to relax. Well, I got my first motorcycle recently. That's why I'm broke. Because of my stimulus check, I got myself a motorbike. And, of course, I put it into my apartment because I'm afraid it might get stolen. And somehow I got destroyed somehow. I don't know, inside of it. I had to get somebody to fix it. And it leaked out a bunch of gasoline all over my living room, and it smells like gasoline here. It sucks. I had
like
to
you're
use
gonna burn your apartment down or some shit.
So I ended up using about $40 worth of. You remember when she used about $40 worth of cleaning supplies trying to get rid of this fucking smell when the smell's still around.
So nobody smoke in your house for the moment.
Yeah. I'm burning incense and trying to get the smell out by using a fan and opening the windows up. You know.
You have some interesting things that happen to you. I remember during a live stream once, you dropped a gun and it went off.
Thanks for reminding me.
I remember watching that.
And interesting story. The maintenance man who watches my channel saw that too. So he was laughing his ass off. He showed up my door after I called up and said, "You dropped your firearm, didn't you? How did you know?" I said, "Don't worry, we're not going to tell the apartment."
That was hilarious. Safety's on, remember?
Not for I was trying to demonstrate how to load a gun, how to cock a gun, how to use it, and all that other stuff.
Well, at least you're not opening. At least you're not opening beer cans with your gun. I saw a video of some guy doing that, and I'm like,
why the fuck would I want to do that? That's stupid.
Yeah, right in front of his face too, and it's like, and then you wonder why people campaign for gun restrictions. It's like people like that give gun owners a bad name.
Or do the Sandman shit, like opening the can on your forehead, like slamming against your forehead.
Oh. Yeah, I used to do that during Jackass stunts when I was in high school. You know, but I heard that's a bad idea because I heard like the lead of the metal cans, they can get into your blood that way and cause blood clots.
You mean the aluminum cans?
Aluminum cans, yep. The fibers can get into your bloodstream and can form blood clots, and then you're gonna have like
It's probably why the Sandman is kind of messed up.
that alcohol. I like the old school ECW back in the day when you had Rhino, Raven, and Tommy.
I've been watching some ECW. I recently got the WWE Network, and I've been watching ECW.
Nice.
And the Stone Cold Broken Skull sessions.
Nice. I have like old DVDs and tapes that I have.
Because right now I can't watch WWE or AEW because I just can't watch empty arena shows. They just get boring after a while.
Ever since the coronavirus, they had WrestleMania with no audience. Isn't that fascinating, Jinks?
Yeah. Plus, it wasn't even taped at the biggest arena in the world like they were advertising. They're probably gonna save that for like next year.
I saw a video footage from Australia of a sports tournament where there was nobody in the entire stadium. That was kind of interesting.
I think Joseph Noah or something, the person who does the Daily Show, and was it Trevor Noah, Samantha Bee, and all these people who are usually use media or on Comedy Central. They're doing their shit through online, so they are now from down on our level on YouTube doing Facebook like this, and you're seeing the lack of talent they have right now. It's like without the laugh track and the huge audience, it really, really, really terrible.
Not only that, but there's a lot of celebrities that are going insane because of the social distancing. And we're getting to see like a bunch of celebrities like a lot of people look up to. They're not the most sane people of the population.
Oh yeah. Like the cringy video of the song the mean of Elton John. What's that song called? Dreamers. That was like cringy. I was watching a video of Johnny Depp of him talking about the coronavirus, and he acts like Edward Scissorhands in the live stream. First time doing this live stream, and I'm like, hello world. It was just incredibly awkward. It's like, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yep, he is still that awkward goth teen in Thelma, Kentucky. So nothing has changed. PlayStation 4, aren't you?
Yeah, I was just on PlayStation 4 on YouTube.
In this video, Telltale accuses Zach Cox TV of stealing gameplay footage. So the video updates. Found another.
So have you guys been outside recently, even though the COVID-19 is going on?
Not really.
Yeah. Like, does it feel like a ghost town, or was it like?
To me, for the city I'm in, it's almost like business as usual. Like nothing's going on.
I live in the countryside, so not really much has changed other than the social distancing rules.
Well,
pretty much.
Where I live at, I mean, when you go to the park, you still see people, but they're social distancing. They're like jogging or doing stuff, doing the thing. But there's a lot less traffic, and I love that, especially when I'm driving a motorcycle and I get kind of nervous on the motorcycle, and I'm like, if I'm going through interstate, when I'm going 80, like going 60 miles an hour, I get nervous.
So the goths are happy because there's less people on the road, and that's a good thing.
Less traffic.
Introverts in general. Yeah. Introverts unite.
now's the time for goths to come out. Like all the sort of not so social people.
My roommate came up to me.
There was a picture of a scared. There was this picture of a drawing of like a scared cat, you know, like with big eyes, and the meme caption was, "What happens if all the extroverts succumb to COVID-19 and all the introverts had to rebuild society?"
And my roommate went up to me about a couple of days ago when I was getting off my motorcycle. He looked around and was like, "Man, it's like The Walking Dead out here." I'm like, "I guess so," but I didn't notice it. It felt so quiet and so
Peaceful.
Peaceful. Like I didn't care. Like I don't know. I don't care.
And there's a part of me there that thinks that society kind of needed to slow down because it's nice, like having it not so crowded and rushed.
Well, at least we can find the good things of the quarantine.
I got some buttons on eBay.
Susie and the Banshees. Spelled out.
Yeah, I got Alien Sex Fiend, London Before Midnight, Christian Death.
I gotta show you mine.
Yeah, these all came like in a pack. Skeletal Family,
That's a nice one.
Bauhaus.
Your jacket.
Here. Joy Division.
Oh, I love that one.
And Sisters of Mercy.
I got the Umbrella, Misfits, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Beetlejuice, Vampire Teeth, Jason. Majority of mine has to be Misfits. Joy Division, Nightmare Before Christmas, Jason, Freddy Krueger, Misfits, a beer, and then Pepe the Frog, yes, and Misfits.
Bought this too.
Nice.
A hearse. Matt.
Yeah.
Hey, Goldman. Can you hand me some drink, man? I'm talking to my roommate. It reminds me, guess what I got?
I was always like, so go on.
Sorry for interrupting, man. Guess what I got
That's all right.
tattooed on my ass?
I already know.
What?
I already know the answer to this.
Jinx, you want to show it to him?
I can't.
Someone trying to escape?
No, it's I used to moon people. I mooned Antifa one time, and somebody suggested to me get a tattoo on my ass for an insult. And it was a tattoo of Pepe the Frog. It has a word bubble on it, and it says, "I fucked your mother last night." I don't know. They had to squint their eyes to read it, but still. And if somebody's wondering where I got my tattoo at, none of your business.
Yeah.
I don't have any tattoos. I would like some.
I think you would look good with tattoos, man, you know?
Yeah.
You look badass, man, you know? I adjusted the Jinx to get him, so he should get himself a Rob Williams tattoo, you know? It would be a really good idea, though.
I really like piercings. I would have more piercings if I could get away with it, but you know, society says no.
I think I would too. Like I would only have like maybe like 1 or 2 tattoos.
Like I want a lip piercing and an eyebrow piercing. I want a few more
Yeah,
piercings in my ear.
yeah. I want an eyebrow piercing. I want like the snake bite piercings, and I want to get my ears re-pierced because my left earlobe tore, so then I had to get that repaired. And my right one was kind of close to tearing, but it hasn't gotten to that
So are you
far.
gauging? Are you gauging them?
No, I just got regular earrings.
Yeah, I had a few tears before with my ears because I'm like on 00 right now. My
Yeah,
eyebrow, my nose, my nostril septum, lip piercing, but I have to take them out every day because of Sam's Club.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to dox me again. Great. I just pulled what's his name? Dragon Lord again, didn't I?
I don't know. These are 00s in my ear.
I can't tell because you're a blob. Nice.
But I think I've stretched beyond a 00. I can pull this thing like completely through my ear.
I like the fact that I'm pretty sleeved up anyway in the first place, but at the same time, I went around everywhere trying to find people. You know,
You have a lot of tattoos.
all right, I'm really happy I found some people who can actually do some work for me. You know, for a pretty decent price. You know, or for free sometimes, depends how they feel. You know. And I almost got run off the road when I was driving my motorcycle because people don't have any respect for motorcyclists. I don't know why, but you know how that is. I'm to the point right now I'm getting doxxed like before, so it's like I don't give a shit right now.
Everything
Literally,
I
somebody,
do is under Jinks. It's just Jinks. Everything.
Lothaire Mordred. My name is. I even used to
Yeah,
have a.
yeah, I was wearing these, and I think I was wearing them when I was sleeping, and that's how my ear probably tore.
That
These
sucks.
are like dangle raven skulls, and the uh, screwhead tunnel.
I used to have those when I was younger. I like those. They look cool.
Yeah,
You thought about re-piercing them?
yeah. Eventually, spider web. That actually came with a choker from like Claire's and a bat cuff or bat wing cuff that I got from Hot Topic.
You
It's
know what?
supposed to go like on my
You know what I
left
miss? I
ear.
miss ball chain necklaces. Whatever happened to ball chain necklaces?
Yeah, they used to have them at Hot Topics. So they don't have them anymore.
They had them everywhere back in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
I got this at Hot Topic, the screwhead. Um, but my Raven earrings I got on Amazon.
Ball chain necklaces. Have you ever looked on Amazon for them?
No.
I haven't.
Are they on there?
Probably.
Probably. Yeah.
I used to make them into hemp jewelry. I do that and sell them.
Thanks.
Now I wish I hadn't. I wish I kept them because they're harder to find now.
I used to have
Or
I used to go
Or
online.
like
Cosmetic.
the type of piercings that go like in your nose and like connect to your ear, like those kind of piercings.
Oh,
Yeah, I haven't seen it for a while.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about like the whole Nosgoth type thing, like where you have like the rosary beads connecting the nose piercing to the ear piercing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a mockery of religion. I like it.
I don't have them anymore. I've been trying to look for them as well.
Well, you have to make it. You have to get your nose pierced, your ear pierced, and you have to find a rosary and use the rosary beads to string it.
Oh, nice. I think my mom would kill me if I did that.
My parents would think I'm weird, weirder than usual, actually.
You guys ever drove a motorcycle?
No.
No.
I like it. It's pretty fun.
My
Gets you pointed.
My dad used to. He said he hated it though because bugs would fly in his face, and one time a June bug flew up his nose. That's
I had that before. It sucks.
My dad has a motorcycle too, and he's been fixing it up for the past few years. And
One thing the one thing I hate the most is when I'm driving and someone's on your ass, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And then it's different between when somebody's on your ass when you're driving a car because you're surrounded by metal. But I get really nervous when they're behind me because I'm afraid if I fall off the bike, I'm going to have some really bad road rash.
Well, I have a funny. Like my dad was telling me the story. Like when he was like getting his license, I think at 16 or 17, he drove to driver's ed with his motorcycle, and the teacher and the driver's ed teacher was like, how can you drive a motorcycle if you don't have your license yet?
You do it
some people can
illegally. So, have Indo-European Goth. Did you watch that video I sent you by Kraut and T where he talks about like the Ottoman Empire and the invasion of Anatolia? He also covered the Ottoman, not the Ottoman, but the Armenian genocide in it, and
the Hittites.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that yet. I was going to, but then forgot about it.
Yeah, well, I thought you'd find it interesting because he does talk about Indo-European tribes.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting about that is that the Hittites are mentioned in the Bible, but they're mentioned as Canaanites. But the Bible got that wrong. The Hittites were Indo-Europeans.
You know, he was talking about in it that the lines that are drawn between race and culture and all that didn't exist back then. That it was just like basically if a tribe conquered another tribe, they were just absorbed into it.
Yeah, but I mean the reason why they're called the Hittites is because the name originates from the Bible. Like it comes from Hebrew, I think. But a more accurate term for the Hittites would be the Neshites, because their capital city was Nessa.
But he went over the whole history of that, starting with the Indo-European tribes, and then the formation of the Ottoman Empire, the trying to conquer Anatolia, which then became, what was it? Was it Constantinople first or Istanbul? And
Yeah, it was Byzantium first, then Constantinople, and then it was Istanbul.
Also, my question is that with the thing about were they the ones who also tried to overthrow the Roman Empire as well?
Uh, you mean the Ottomans?
Mhm.
Yeah, the Ottomans when they invaded Turkey, the sack of Constantinople is regarded as the end of the Roman Empire, at least like the Byzantine Empire, which happened in 1453.
And it was
But
kind of
it,
funny that
but
Rome became mostly
yeah,
Catholic after a certain amount of time. I'm wondering
yeah,
what happened with that.
because with the Roman Empire in the third in the third century, they split into the Western and Eastern Roman Empire. So later on, the Western Empire fell to the Germanic tribes, and then later on, the Byzantines, they would still call themselves Romans because they still consider themselves Romans, but it would later be distant as they would stop using Latin and would prefer Greek instead.
Hmm.
It's often said that the Roman Empire is called the Latin West and the Greek East.
I was
But
reading something about Venice, Italy. They had a island that they kept the dead during the Black Plague. I thought it was called um, I forgot what it was called. Shit, Shove. It was Shove something. It was what's up? But yet, uh, but that island they changed it between that to one point it was a hospital. Next minute it was a mental institution, and one point it was an army base. And now they just left the
oh
place
yeah,
alone because it was so cursed.
I remember watching
It's
a video
material.
about that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the name of that island is called, but they say it's haunted.
Yeah. I was watching Most Scariest Place on Earth. I was watching that, and they were mentioning about it, and they would talk about the whole history behind it. And I'm like, an island that you can throw all the dead bodies there. That must be some kind of real kind of just stain onto the world, onto like some real energy there. I mean,
Well,
life.
that and in Greek myth, they say that some of the Italian islands are home to the sirens.
Wow.
the sirens.
Sirens or sirens or however you say them. I just say sirens.
I don't know. Would you spend a night? Would you? So, and I know you're an atheist, Jinx, but would you spend a night in a place like that?
Yes, absolutely.
I wouldn't feel comfortable, but at the same time, I mean, I probably would because of the experience. I probably wouldn't like it, but I'd probably just be like, I want to do it because I want to experience things.
I think
So,
we live and exist on entrailments of the dead already as it is. We just don't think about it.
but I mean, even though you're an atheist, that would make some people feel uncomfortable going to a place that like millions and millions of people have died there. Imagine being buried alive by of tons and tons of like other bodies on you. That's insane.
Worse than or worse than that, like like if you're atheist, then you get the punishment of getting a bunch of boulders stacked on top of you, and you just get crushed to death.
Same with shrubs.
They used to
It
do
even
that.
happens in the least amount today.
They used to do that to atheists.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real
And
thing.
polytheists too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Catholics. I think in history we all did it. Like every religion has like tried to fuck each other over by stoning each other to death.
Oh yeah, all peoples everywhere have done atrocious things. People like to say, "Oh, the Native Americans were peaceful people." No, they weren't.
So I will say they were always fighting with each other over resources and land, and yes, they cannibalized and enslaved each other.
Scalping their foreheads.
Yep. Exactly.
I thought scalping was something they learned from the Irish.
I don't think so, because I think the Irish picked it up on the Native Americans.
The funny thing is, not very much people know about it, but we had black slaves, but also we had Irish slaves as well, and not very much people in the history books talk about Irish slavery, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, because the Irish once hated America.
I don't know.
Because the Irish would work in like the landmines and the railroads and work in horrible work conditions, which were my ancestors.
I learned about that in history class. I don't know why they didn't teach you that. That was in high school.
Yeah, well, I think they took it out because it's, I don't know, I don't know why.
We didn't really talk about that much in high school, because in high school we pretty much just learned about the American Revolution and World War II, World War I, the Cold War, and a few other topics that are most commonly taught in school.
World War One, Civil War, Revolutionary War,
Civil War,
the Trail Tears and stuff like that, the Indian War. The funny thing is that what the history classes they never taught us, states used to fight each other all the time. Mississippi
What they also don't tell you is that people would align themselves with both sides, with if you're within the same family, people in one household could support either side. It was not like, oh, everyone on the slavery side supported slavery and everyone on the liberal side supported the liberal side or whatever. It wasn't like that.
Well, the funny thing is that even some of the founding fathers didn't agree with slavery. Some did, some didn't.
No.
And
I was actually talking about my dad today about the issue of slavery. Jesus in the Bible says, give God's what's God's and Caesar's what's Caesar's. And I asked, slaves were a part of Caesar, so does that mean that Jesus was for slavery? Oh, I'm not really entirely sure.
Well, you have to realize slavery back in those days was considered forced servitude. You were forced to be a servant for a certain amount of time and let go.
Mm-hmm.
What the settlers did, they did the opposite. They forced the one generation after the next generation to be slaves, which was against the teachings of their beliefs. So they did the opposite what the ancient Romans or the ancient Jewish people did. It was mostly forced.
Back then in Rome, white people were slaves. My Germanic ancestors were slaves to the Romans, and the Romans would enslave their own people. The women were pretty much the servants of slave masters or something.
But the funny thing is with slavery, the word slavery is Slavic, and majority of the slavery happened in the Middle East, and it spreads across all through the westernized world. So that's one thing I don't get about some people who want to downgrade America, saying, "Oh, it's super racist," but yet you're not putting it at the European countries for doing the exact same thing, or the Middle Eastern countries, or all of Africa.
Because slavery is probably around 5,000, 6,000 years old, probably, or even longer than that.
And the funny thing is,
The concept of slavery, anyway.
slavery has been around even before America was around. Not only that, slavery
Yeah.
still happens today with human sex trafficking in Russia. And
Yeah.
guess who has the less human sex trafficking?
Mm-hmm.
But we have more gun violence, which is odd. Yeah, the United States has less human trafficking, but more gun violence compared to.
But I mean that's kind of like, funny. Like, most of the gun violence committed is suicides, and most of the guns that are used are handguns, and yet the government is banning all of these weapons that are basically military grade.
Yeah. But we're not
It's like, it's like, what citizen would have the incentive to use those weapons?
Yeah. But also the thing is, you look at this right here. We even know that we have gun violence, we have less violence compared to other countries because you're 5 times more likely to get stabbed by a knife compared to a gun. Brazil, China, India, Russia, and a few other countries, you're most likely to get stabbed or murdered on the streets in comparison to get shot in the United States. So you're most likely to get stabbed in another country in comparison to get shot. So the United States,
I remember Jinks bringing this up in one of his videos. Like, you're more likely to be killed by someone of the same race rather than someone of like the opposite race or something.
And that kind of debunks the theory of white privilege.
But the media likes to emphasize race on race murder or something.
It doesn't happen that often.
Media has the incentive to basically to make a profit, to cause controversy, and what causes controversy? Racial division.
Yeah.
Hence why that Richard Spencer was on CNN.
Yeah, the media has perpetuated this cycle of bad news, of tragedies. Like, when you say the name of the perpetrator, they're more likely going to have copycats, and the cycle of violence is just going to continue, and the media just perpetuates it. That's why we're not seeing any improvement in our crime rates, probably.
Well, also, you got to think about it is that the media was misleading about the whole story. It's like the George Zimmerman situation. George Zimmerman was portrayed as a white guy in the media, but really he was Latino, and he was like 6'1", but they were trying to portray the guy as 6'6". The kid, what was his name again? Sorry, the person he supposedly shot, he claimed it was self-defense. The person he was following, which he shouldn't have followed, because the cop told him not to, the teenager was 6'8", 16-year-old kid who was 6'8", who looked like an adult. And they were trying to portray Undertaker. He was trying to portray him as like a small little kid, but really the guy was like literally 6'8" compared to somebody who was like George Zimmerman, who was like 6'2". And clearly they were both of them wrong, because you don't want to follow somebody in the back alley with a firearm. That's going to seem kind of suspicious. Not only that, I mean, swinging at a guy who has a gun would be a bad idea also. So the mainstream media was trying to make it a race thing, but really George Zimmerman was Latino, and how you can make that a race thing, so they portrayed him as a white guy.
Well, I don't know how the conversation got derailed so far into racialized politics, but we need to wrap this up because I have to go to bed soon.
What were we talking about before?
The
point was to talk about COVID-19.
It went from media to that. Okay, then. Yeah, I can see it. That's why a lot of people are skeptical about media, because they're overhyped a lot of stuff in the past, and then we're kind of like, you guys screamed wolf so many times, we're going to be skeptical. Would you blame us?
I don't know. I don't watch mainstream media very often. I might
don't watch it either.
I might watch something from CNN and then watch something from Fox to see like the difference. But for the most part, like I rely on other media sources.
Like I even was watching Temple, and I like Temple. But there's some stuff that I kind of roll my eyes on. I'm like, yeah, I don't believe this crap you're telling me. I'm very skeptical about anything. Even the stuff that I watch, I'm very skeptical for myself. Even some of the information I read upon.
Well,
You know?
I think I do more reading on reports of incidences and things that usually tend to be politically unbiased, politically neutral.
I watch Secular Talk and the Humanist Report for like my news.
I usually listen to Matt Christensen, Jim Poole. They're very centrist. They're very like level head. They're not right or left or anything like that. But I listen to a lot of podcasts from like the Joe Rogan show and stuff like that. It was always interesting. I like the Joe Rogan.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not even listening to podcasts. I'm reading stuff.
I read stuff too. Sometimes somebody brings something up, I look it up online, try to Google it, and look up reports. And
I will watch documentary series, but those usually aren't done by YouTube content creators.
I'm subscribed to like a couple of documentary channels though, like Timeline. They like upload like documentaries of history stuff and political figures and a bunch of other noble people.
There's a channel that I watch that is called Dark Matter. And it's usually like basically stories and bloody. I hear you echo. But like mostly like horror and murders and homicides and like paranormal stuff is usually a documentary.
Oh, yeah. I watch that stuff too. Like I like watching like Mr. Nightmare and and some other YouTubers that talk about like real horror stories and stuff that happen.
I was gonna ask you a question. You know what Brainbot is, right?
What?
The YouTube channel Brainbot.
I don't think I know him.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen too much of her stuff recently. She disappeared recently. And I was wondering what the heck happened to her because she would like do a lot of like real life horror situations or paranormal activity or stuff that is like creepypastas and urban legends. And I haven't seen her for a while on YouTube for like ever. And it's like, what the heck happened?
Probably because you can't really make money off of the YouTube platform, but we need to wrap this up. I need to head off to bed here, you guys.
We went from viruses to talk about media to horror and just out everywhere. Talk to you guys later.
Have a good night.
Good night. Bye.
Yep.
Good night.